I'm Jeff Baumgartner with Light Reading Cable. I'm here with Ganesh with Verivue. First question I have for you, we're talking a little bit about content delivery networks. So, as you're looking at the level of activity right now among cable MSOs, is there a lot right now? And if what activity there is it really the major MSOs that are focused on this right now, or are you seeing it filter down to the tier 2 and tier 3 guys?
Say that there's a lot of activity. It used to be dominated by so-called CDN assisted WAD, where the goal was primarily to expand the library offering from 10,000 titles to 50,000 or greater. But these days, with the emergence of consumer electronic devices, that focus is shifted to HTTP adaptive streaming type content delivery, if you will. And then, predominantly among the smaller tier 2s and tier 3s, there is a big need to optimize the video which is flowing through the network from the likes of Voodoo and Hulu and Apple, if you will. So they're looking at CDNs for these diverse set of applications. So the focus has changed quite a bit from where it started off.
And as you kind of look at where they're really focused today, you mentioned VOD. I mean, is it really to help them kind of bulk that up right now, the amount of VOD? Are they looking at TV everywhere sort of applications so they can deliver content to iPads and smartphones and PCs and other mobile devices?
Yes, it predominantly started off 2 years ago, I would say, with bulking up the number of titles and kind of offering experience to end users as a retention tool to say that you've got access to large libraries. In the last 8 to 10 months, the focus has shifted dramatically towards HTTP adaptive streaming because of consumer electronic devices, because of iPad tablets and the like. So the focus has changed quite a bit, if you will.
And in the past, you guys have been, some shows I've seen you guys speak at, you guys have talked a lot about the importance of standards in CDN. So I guess, what areas of the CDN do you actually need standards? And if there's a lack of standards in those areas, what's the risk?
Yes, again, the standards were around specific application requirements. I would say that in agreement with what you just cited, standards were slow to emerge when it came to CDN assisted WAD. That has changed now with the emergence of ATIS IIF. It's called as ATIS, Association of Telecommunication Industries, and what they have come up with is a new standard which allows to introduce CDN in legacy WAD. When it comes to HTTP adaptive streaming or other broadband connected devices, I would say that HTTP and DNS are the primary protocol. So if you have a CDN around these protocols, that's pretty standards compliant. The big area where it is still lacking is this notion of CDN termination or CDN federation. There's a lot of activity in the IETF space around it, and I think that as soon as the standards emerge out there, the first big win is when global CDNs can offload their traffic into some of the operator networks, because operators network own the last mile, if you will. So that's the area where I would say that a lot of focus is there on standardization these days.
Now, if there were no standards in that area, what would happen? Would you have an issue with kind of vendor exclusion, or what would be the issue there?
I would say that it's not necessarily vendor exclusion, it's going to be the user experience, because the model that you have today where content gets delivered from deeper in the network from a few global CDN, that's not sustainable, because as the concurrency of content usage goes up, more users sign on and want to watch content from the broadband network. It's not a sustainable model, right? So if there is no proper termination model, then it's going to be a bit of a problem, because the user experience is going to suffer. And because of that, I think that there is going to be a drive such that operators who own the subscribers will find a meaningful way to cooperate with the global CDNs and make it happen.
Last thing I want to talk about is adaptive mid-range streaming. You mentioned it earlier. Now, is it ready for prime time if you're talking about delivering content to, like HD content, to big screen TVs, or are we really talking about smaller screens, iPads, smartphones. You know, I guess I'm not completely sold on the idea. So how far along is that, and how would it be used right now?
That I think is a great question, and I think that I'll point out a few statistics, very interesting ones, because Sandvine released the Global Internet Phenomena Report at the end of 2010, and what they showed was that Netflix was consuming 21% of the overall internet traffic during peak busy hour, right? And then you can look at some of the blogs which are put out by Netflix themselves. What they showed, which was extremely interesting, was that you could get sustained 2.5 megabits per second as seen by the end devices from the residents of many of the users. So what that shows is that Netflix has the ability to deliver 720p encoded content and deliver it today, right? Voodoo and other companies claim that they can do close to 1080p using 9 megabits per second. But somewhere between 3 to 4 megabits per second seems to be enough to deliver a near HD-like experience. And as long as it's smooth and not jerky, most people don't seem to mind with that experience, right? And many people, probably to the naked eye, they're not able to discern between 720p and 1080p. So I would say that it's acceptable quality of user experience with a good choice that you have, and the fact that it allows you to do things the way you want and sign up with whichever service provider you want.
Now, when you're talking about that, you're talking about acceptable quality on the TV set, like a big screen, or on an iPad?
So I would say that it's acceptable on both fronts. And the 720p experience that I was talking about was actually to a wide variety of widgets on these new TVs which are directly connected to the internet, as well as to the Blu-ray players. If anything, with some of the Google-based WebM standards and the new codecs that Apple is planning on introducing, they'd be able to squeeze a fair bit of quality out of the existing bandwidth pipes. Now, another very interesting thing out here is that bulk of the content today, HTTP adaptive streaming, is delivered from the second mile. The operator is not involved at all. By introducing caches into the first mile, if anything, this overall experience is going to evolve and improve, because once you get to around 6 to 8 megabits per second sustained, it's guaranteed that it's going to be good for close to 1080i experience at least.
Okay. Well, Ganesh, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate the time.